On the what now? Okay, you're on the cloud. What?
They have
Hold on.
item 3, and then they have this item and that item. Do I have to reference both of these or just this first one?
Just the big main block, if you describe what it
B1?
is too. Yeah,
Or not?
yeah, yeah. Okay, guys,
Oh, shoot, you're down.
welcome to today's meeting. We're going to talk about some miscellaneous stuff that I think is critically important. After you just heard my giant gripe session. But you got to understand, if I'm a little off today, we've literally been doing this all day. We've been chasing problems all day long. I woke up to chasing problems with Cindy, moved shortly into chasing problems with Brendan, directly into chasing my own problems. And what I'm grateful for around all of this is this gives us the opportunity to talk about some really accurate, recent, relevant, what shall I call it, attitudes in the market lately that I think we need to cover. I'm going to talk mostly about sellers because I think that at this point in time, the sellers are the ones with all the gripes, right? But even if you never represent a seller and all that you do for your entire life is represent buyers, representing buyers really truly becomes much, much easier if you understand the attitude of sellers in today's world. So we're going to talk about 3 things. The first topic is what Brendan and I are calling who you work with matters. The second topic is we've got to cover it because everybody else in the world's talking about it. We've got to cover the rate cut and what that means for you now. Okay. If you hadn't heard, the Fed made quote unquote, or am I echoing? Turn it down. Quote unquote historic rate cut yesterday, 0.5% off of the prime rate. And they did what we wish they wouldn't have done. They did the same thing that they did 3 months ago. And they said, we're going to make a historic rate cut. We're going to take 0.5%, but don't worry. We're going to do more again later. Did you guys catch that? Have you been hearing that on the news? Okay. More on that in a minute. And then number 3, and really important for us to start talking about is how are you going to market to Generation Z? Now, before you say, I don't give a shit about how I'm going to market to Generation Z, let me share a little data tidbit with you that just came down the pipe last week. That tidbit is this, is that Generation Z is forecasted to be and pacing to be already nearly 30% more active in the home buying market than Generation Millennial. Meaning that we've all been primed up for the millennials for a good number of years. How do you sell to a millennial? How do you do that? And then we realized, you know what? We can't sell to them because they all live in their parents' basement. Generation Z is already outpacing to break that mold. Gen Z is not going to live in their parents' basement. They don't like their parents. Okay. And I think that, my daughter is proof of that. They don't want to live in their parents' basement. Okay. They're already starting to talk, plan, and figure out how they're going to be a home buyer and how they're going to get into ownership. That is much, much different than the millennial generation. It reminds me a little bit more of Gen Xers with a lot of wokeness going along with it. So, man, I shouldn't say that. Okay, here we go. Who you work with matters. Who you work with matters. I want to let Brendan chime in. Brendan's got an escrow problem. Okay. He's been, Brendan, unmute yourself. Brendan, what was your close date on Natoma? What was your scheduled close date?
7 days ago now.
7 days ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
7 days ago. 7 days ago, Brendan was supposed to close. He's got a problem with a title officer. We don't want to get too far into it, but it's the title officer's fault. The title officer wouldn't make the right corrections to an item. The seller, Brendan's client, asked for it several times in writing. Title officer ends up straight refusing. Everybody blows up. Brendan, for the past 7 days, what have you been working on?
Nothing.
Have you been working on your brokerage and growing your brokerage and marketing and all of those things? What have you been working on?
things that are not necessarily my job, title stuff, trying to
Title.
bridge the gap between title and my client. I've reached out to managers. I mean, I was really close to calling a vice president in the region. Didn't want to go that route though, because I'm not trying to necessarily hurt anybody's career. And I'll tell you, it was just rife with problems from the very beginning. I had to reach out for my EMD. I didn't know that there was EMD in even, and then they go, "Oh yeah, we've got that." It's a condo, so there's an HOA. Couldn't find no HOA documents for days, and so I tracked down the number for HOA, reached out to them, found out what day they ordered. Title ordered the HOA documents, which was we had a 14-day escrow, and they ordered it 9 days into our escrow.
Not going to make it.
No. So, I mean, they just failed from the beginning and have continued to fail time and time again with wrong deeds, wrong spellings, you name it. It's been an absolute nightmare. I've never had anything like this happen to me before.
Yeah. What's interesting, guys, is that Brendan didn't know this because I didn't know which escrow company went with his contract. Okay. I didn't know which title company it was. I didn't know who's doing the escrow. And our common friend, Jacob, who is our preferred loan agent, was talking to Brendan about the issue. And he goes, "Oh, dude, Damien had the same problem with the same escrow officer, like, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago." Jessica's client, her house in Olivehurst that she sold her client, same title officer, same title company. They lied. They screwed us over. They delayed the closing and the ability for Jessica's client to move for 24 to 48 hours. I don't even remember what it was now. Turned into a whole thing. It was a whole match of me, screaming with my fingers because we basically caught them in a lie that they wouldn't cop to. So this is this pattern for this particular title office. And because, I mean, you guys, Brendan and I work for the same company and we're related, for crying out loud. And we didn't know this. I could have saved him a whole lot of pain, right? Who you work with matters. In my mind, a title company gets one shot and one shot only, because I got to tell you, I'm not being a jerk when I say it's not that hard a job. All right? It's just not. Okay? Everything's automated now. Everything's online now. It's not like they got guys rifling through books. They don't have to go to the county to record anything. It's done electronically. Okay? It's very streamlined compared to what it was even 10 years ago. Even 10 years ago. There's absolutely positively no excuse for them not to perform on time. If there is, they can communicate that. They have to communicate that. Okay? There's just no excuse for it. None. And I'm not trying to bash on title companies. My point is this. When you talk about any ancillary vendor in real estate, and what do I mean by ancillary vendor? Okay, I'm talking about title companies. I'm talking about transaction coordinators. I'm talking about inspectors. Okay, I'm talking about lenders. Okay. If you have any static from any of the people that you use on a fairly regular basis, you need to find another one. Okay, you need to find another one and you need to move on. I'll go a step further. If the person on the other side of the transaction has any static with any of your vendors, you probably need to find another one, right? And you need to find someone and start making relationships and using in your repertoire the same people over and over and over and over again that can be counted on, that won't blow up your deals, and that will make your life easier. For example, I use the same home inspector every single time. It's been that way for 10 years. There's 2 reasons. Okay, 2 reasons. Number one, he's very thorough and he writes his reports in a way that don't blow up the deal. Even if he finds something scary, he writes his reports in a way that don't blow up the deal. Number 2, he will schedule all of my other inspections for me. Right? Makes my life easy. He's one phone call. I need all these other inspections. He'll line them up for me on the day that I say. Right? Or he'll text me back and say, "We can't put it all together on Tuesday. How's Wednesday?" right? Why would I go anywhere else? He does a good job. He doesn't scare anybody away, and he does a bunch of work for me. Why would I go anywhere else? Right? My escrow company. Everybody knows. We have the same escrow people literally for 20 years. It started with Christina. Christina went and retired. Her lead assistant, Allie, stepped in and took over Christina's book. It's been the same people at the same office for 20 years. Why? Because they make my life easy. If there's a problem, they tell me. They don't make mistakes. If they do make a mistake, they own up to it and they tell me so that we can fix it. Why would I go anywhere else? Right? I say the same thing about Mary, even though Brendan takes exception to one of the things that she makes Brendan do. I still think that the net positives that I get with her far outweigh that. Let me give you an example. Everybody knows that I did a dual agency listing in Cool on a large property with an agent that was out of the area, a non-MLS member. She's based in Los Angeles. Okay. She tries really, really hard, but she's not accustomed to the way that I do the paperwork. So in the past 24 hours, we've had a seller that's put forth a bunch of incomplete disclosure, 2 agents that are trying to feed in reports, and they're putting in the same reports and different reports and all that. Same 2 agents are throwing in the incomplete disclosures from the seller. They're putting them in the pile. Everybody's confused. Everybody's stressed out. Okay. Nobody knows what they're supposed to look at. Nobody knows what's supposed to be uploaded to DocuSign. Nobody knows what they have and what they don't have. Everybody's literally flipping out. Okay. Except I don't know that they're flipping out. I have no idea. Do you want to know why? Because she doesn't tell me. Because she's going to take care of it. So she's gone through and she's contacted the seller. She's contacted both of the other agents. She's gone as far as contact some of the service providers that made the reports to make sure that she gets the right reports. She's gone back through all of that stuff 2 and 3 times to make sure that there's no duplicates or anything else. And the only thing I get was at 5 this morning or something, I get a text message that says, "Hey boss, I need you to sign the disclosure package right away. We're a day late. I need you to sign it right away, please." Right? Well, at 5 in the morning, I was scrubbing my shower. Okay? It's a long process. Takes some time. Right? I could hear my phone ringing. Okay? I could hear it ring and ring and ring. And then I heard the text message blow up and blow up and blow up, but I'm scrubbing the shower. Right? So I get out of the shower and I'm, getting ready to go. And I got the, "Hey boss, I need you to sign this right away. Boss, are you there? I need you to sign this right away." And then the last message was, "Don't get mad at me. I'm signing it for you." Right? You know what I sent? The thumbs up emoji. Why would I use anybody else? So who you work with matters. No one's ever perfect, right? No one's ever perfect. But as you're going through this thing and you're setting relationships and you're working transactions and you're doing all that, pay attention, you guys. Pay attention to the little details and the little things that irritate you. And if you're not happy about it, get to looking, especially now. I mean, there are so many people that want to do our work, so many people that want to do our work and want to do a good job at it. Make sure that you surround yourself with people that are going to do a good job for you and people that Brendan said it best when we were talking about it this morning. I said, "Well, Bren, sounds like you're going to close. Sounds like you're through it, but it sounds like you got to do some client control to make sure that his client's a repeat client. Okay. To make sure that your relationship with this repeat client is secure. Okay. Make sure that everything's okay." And he said, and I quote, "Yep. Sounds like I'm going to spend some money." And he's absolutely right. And he shouldn't have to. Right? He works hard for his money. Commissions are tough to come by right now. The last thing he should have to do is give some of it away because somebody else made a mistake. Somebody else made a mistake, and it's going to cost Brendan. I'm going to throw a number out there, Brendan. It's going to cost you $2,500. You know what I mean? By the time it's all said and done, no, I know it. This is an investor-minded client. Hey, dog, this is an investor-minded client. This is a repeat client, and she's pissed, right? She's pissed. Maybe not 2,500, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. Because the title officer jacked it up and wouldn't own it.
All right, who is it?
Don't ever use Placer Title in Elk Grove, California. Under any circumstance, don't ever use it. If you rep a buyer that's got a listing agent that says escrow pre-opened at Placer Title Elk Grove, you tell them, if you want my offer, we're using a different title company. There's no way. They've screwed me over, and they didn't screw me over. They screwed Jessica's clients over. They screwed Brendan's client over. Okay? Both Jessica and Brendan had to go in groveling, giving shit away to make everybody happy because the escrow officer botched it up. Right? Jessica had to give away a home warranty. Brendan's going to have to give away more than that. Okay? To maintain those relationships and maintain that referral network, because an escrow officer wouldn't do their job. It's hard enough already. Don't take that stuff. You got a vendor that's doing that to you, move on. Okay? You got an inspector that's doing that to you, move on. You got a TC that's doing that to you, move on. Okay? You need a referral. You need to know who to use. You need to know who we like to use. After all these years, ask us. Doesn't mean you got to use them, but ask us. We've dealt with a lot of people. I think Brendan and I think we got some really good vendors overall. Really, really good vendors all the way around. Okay.
Can I tell you how I got into this position too?
Please.
So I've got the seller, right? So I've got my preferred title company I want to use. The buyer's agent said, hey, I've got some older clients, they're moving a lot of properties around. They just did a transaction with this title company, and they've been doing transactions with them. Would make them feel a lot more comfortable. It's by their house. They're going to walk in. There was some fraud that happened on the last transaction. So I really need this so that they feel comfortable and sign. So I conceded. Knowing what I know now, I would never have conceded. I would have never given up that control. And I would have told them, hey, I will pay for your clients to walk in that title company and sign. I will pay for their notary, whatever it takes. So I could have kept control of it and kept the vendors that I wanted. I knew that we're going to do a good job. So it happened that easy by just me going, okay, let me try to be nice and do a favor for somebody and make things easier. Made it 20 times harder.
Yeah. Yeah. He had the escrow pre-opened like we always do. Okay. To control that environment. And then he ended up conceding to try and be cooperative, and it cost him. And it's going to keep costing him until he makes it right. Right? Which was also a Placer Title. Brendan's preferred vendor is a Placer Title in another town. Right?
So I got to tell you too, I thought, okay, it's Placer Title. My person's in Placer Title, Lamb Park area. Janice Money Bragg's her name. She's amazing. I thought, okay, it's Placer Title to Placer Title. This shouldn't be too bad. Boy, was I wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. All not the same. All right. Anything else on that before we go to the rate cut? Let's talk about the rate cut. Okay. So as mentioned, the Fed did what we didn't expect, which was did a rate cut yesterday of 0.5%. I really thought it doesn't matter. Come hell or high water, they'll do a quarter. That's all that they'll do. Well, they proved me wrong. They did 0.5%. Okay. And now it's all you're hearing about. But you want to know something really interesting? The Fed cut interest rates yesterday. What happened to mortgage yesterday? Anybody pay attention? Don, what happened to mortgage yesterday?
Went up.
Got busy.
Got busy, but the rate, what happened to the rate?
Oh, rates went down 0.5 point. Well,
I
rates
heard
didn't actually, they were already going down.
Right, right. So they were ahead of it. Okay. It got busy. All you're hearing about on the news now, however, is don't worry. They're going to do more next year. Right? On the Today Show this morning, and I don't watch the Today Show because I particularly care for it. I watch the Today Show to understand what the rest of the world is going to think. Okay? If you want to know what the rest of the world's going to think, just watch the Today Show. Okay? And the rest of the world is going to think what the Today Show told them to think, which is this. It's great that the Fed cut the rate 0.5%. That means mortgage rates are going down, which is not true. Okay? Not necessarily true, but that's what they're telling people. The problem is they also told them, but don't worry, the Fed's already committed to take rates down even more. So by mid next year, your mortgage rate could be this. Okay. The reason I'm sharing this with you is this is the same thing they did to us 60 days ago when everything shut down and stopped. Okay. Everything shut down and stopped because, oh, don't worry, the Fed's going to lower rates in September. All right. Don's listing paid the price for that. I had 2 listings that paid 4 listings that paid the price for that. Okay. That pause was tangible. Okay. Not just our listings. I checked around with lots of people. We already know that. I'm afraid that we could see a similar thing happen after all of the comments that were happening now. So we really got to pay attention to see what happens here. Mortgage picked up yesterday. Yes. Traffic before the Fed meeting last week picked up in anticipation of the Fed meeting. We know that too. The big question is going to be, is this enough? Is this enough to kind of get us over the hump, or are people going to plan for, well, they said they were going to do it again. So maybe after the election and maybe after the holidays, that's when I'll do it. That's when I'll do it. Okay. What I think is important for us to remember is kind of what we talked about a week or so ago. And I'm gonna just rehammer it a little bit. We put up that graphic and we put up that data about rate and difference in rate and what that does on the average mortgage, on the average purchase price in all of our markets. And what we saw was that even at 0.5%, the difference in monthly payment was negligible. Now, I understand that there's qualifying involved in all of that, but let's just focus on somebody says, well, I'm waiting. Why are you waiting? Well, I'm waiting for a lower rate. Well, why are you waiting for a lower rate? Well, because I want to spend less money monthly. You got to dig into that graphic and you got to show them the difference of where they are today, 5.5%-ish, right? Versus where it's going to be if they're 5, and if they're willing to wait out that time period and wait for more competition to save $67 a month. Okay? We've got to focus in on that. We've got to keep educating people on this fact too. Right now, they'll never be in a stronger position. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have not been in as strongest position as a buyer in at least 4 years as they are today. Right now, today. Okay? In at least 4 years. And the reason is this. Over most segments in our markets, there is more inventory on hand now than there has been in at least 4 years. If you combine that with the fact that they now have a great rate, a lower rate, they should feel good about their position in the market. Okay? And it is good if they have other people that are going to wait for the better rate later in the year. There's limited competition for them on the buying end right now. There's a lot of inventory and the money's cheap. Okay? Don, the rate today compared on the historical average of mortgages, if we go back 40 years or however long they've been tracking this crap, where are we today based on that 40-year or whatever year average? Are we up? Are we down? Where are we today?
We're about right where we should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. If not even a little low compared to what if you're looking at 40 years.
Yeah. So the net of that story is the money's good. Really, historically, the money's good. And I've got news for your clients, even though I'm not Warren Buffett. If they're waiting for 3% again, it's never coming. It's not coming. Okay? Not unless we get another pandemic. So it's not coming. Right? Smarter people than me, and I agree with this. This was my number, but I don't have all of the algorithms and data behind. But smarter people than me say 5 is the best you can hope for. Right? Guys, we're right there. We're right there. Okay. Now, I know you know this. I know we've talked about this, but it warrants talking about again. When you're out there, when you're talking to people, when you hear about this, you got to drive this point home because this is the truth. Probably between now and the end of the year is going to be the strongest position our buyers have been in at least 4 years. This is the time that they have been waiting for. If they wait for the rate to go down again and assume that it does, and everybody else comes back, they're not in the strongest position as they are today. Okay? Everybody's been waiting for the bottom. Okay? Guys, in California, this is as close to the bottom as we get. This is it. All right? Nothing selling. Inventory numbers are growing. Money is still really, really buyer conducive. Okay. I mean, unless all the sellers of the world change their mind and decide, let's list our house and inventory triples, this is as good as it gets for our buyers right now, today. Just makes sense. Tell them that when you talk to them and tell them why. Okay. Use the data that we just talked about. Don't just say, well, it's a great time to buy. Well, why? Okay. Because of this, right? Because of these issues. When they say to you, well, I'm waiting for the rate to go down, ask them point blank, how much? How much? How much are you waiting for it to go down? Okay. Another half? Oh, great. Let's talk about that. What kind of house are you going to buy? How big do you think your loan's going to be? What do you think that half is going to do for you? Okay. Now imagine yourself back in 2020, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Rates go all the way down to 5, maybe 4.75. Everybody decides it's time to buy again. And every listing that you want, so do 20 other people. Because that's where we're going. That's where we're heading. When the money gets really, really good, and it probably will because it's an election year, okay? It'll get really, really good for a very, very brief moment. And when it does, it's game on. It's multiple offers every house. You're not going to be able to get terms that you want. You're not going to be able to have inspections. You're not going to be able to negotiate on those inspection findings. You're not going to be able to do any of that crap because you're going to have to be writing those offers that we all wrote and that we all felt bad for our clients writing in 2020, which was, hell yeah, we'll close in 21 days. We'll remove all contingencies. We'll give you $100,000 over asking price. We'll just take it. Take it. And they still said no because somebody else beat you out. That's where they're heading. That's not where they are today, but that's where they're heading. Okay? Tell them that. All right. Questions, comments, anything on that one? I'm doing it this week. I'll be making a video, but put it on social media and tell all the buyers of the world, you know what? This is the absolute best time for you to buy a house. Don't be a fool. Like, absolute best time for you to buy a house. I thought the bottom was last year at the peak of the rate world. That's when I made a move. I was wrong. It's today. It's absolutely today. Anybody want to add to that?
I believe in Sac County, inventory is up 40% from this time last year.
40. 40. That's huge. Huge. I looked at, we've got that listing in Grass Valley. I looked at Grass Valley competitive listings this morning in that price range, in that deal. I don't even remember. How many houses were on the market, Brendan? 19? Did I say 19? Yeah. 19. 19 houses on market. Good thing ours is brand new. All right, Gen Z. Let's talk briefly about Gen Z. This is really easy. It's going to be the shortest topic of all. How do you market to Gen Z? Anybody got any ideas except for Brendan? Because we talked about this all morning. Michael, how do you think you market to Gen Z? Can't hear you. You're muted. Okay. He's saying something, but I don't know what it is. Jessica, how do you market to Gen Z? You millennial.
Text messages.
Text messages? You said
Yeah.
text messages? All right,
I
I'll
did.
address that. Jess,
Social media.
social media. Okay.
Yeah, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things.
Yep, all the things. Got it. All right. Dawn, any idea how to market to Gen Z?
No.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah, you got to go to their parents' house and wrestle them to sign a agreement.
Yeah, there'll be
Scold
that
them.
too.
Scold them.
There'll be that too. Actually, I think they'll sign the agreement quicker than a Gen Xer. I think they just sign anything. They're used to just scrolling down and clicking accept, accept, accept. Like they don't even understand that you're signing something that's legally binding. They're like, yeah, cool, accept. Here's how you market to Gen Z based on data. Okay. I don't have any data on texting, but I will tell you this, and Brendan and I had a long talk about this today. I think that text marketing is dead. And here's why. How many, you may need two hands, you don't have to answer, just show me. How many spam marketing texts do you get a day? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do mine. Okay. Do you read them?
Nope.
Nope. Do you do like I do and hit the report junk button and delete it and report it as junk?
Yep.
Yep. Do you think we're the only ones? Nope. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, text marketing was the gold standard, right? It was an immediate call to action. People responded. They clicked the button. It was very, very effective. It, like all other things, has gotten so saturated now that I don't think anybody reads it anymore. It's like junk mail or junk email, right? It's like when the phone call comes up and it says spam, it just doesn't work anymore. Doesn't work anymore. Gen Z likes social media. They do. But what they really like, according to data and research, is YouTube. They really like YouTube. In fact, it's their number one news and information source. YouTube. Not YouTube TV for the old guys in the audience. YouTube. So they like video, right? So if you want to go on social media and hit Gen Z, do it in video. If you really want to dig in and hit Gen Z, do what Brendan and I are going to do and start investigating with people that know better than us. How is it exactly do you make a YouTube channel that gets traction and gets subscriptions and watches? How does your YouTube video gain traction and get put into the little Gen Z menu titled For You? Right? Start thinking in terms of video marketing, YouTube marketing, because according to the data, it's all that they'll pay attention to. Yeah, Jess.
So I recently learned reading the emails actually from the freaking real estate people. I don't know, but the description of the video, the words, it's kind of like hashtags on Facebook and Instagram. The words help designate where it goes. So I actually literally Google what's trending right now, trending hashtags for Gen Z, and I'll throw that in the middle of my hashtags on Instagram to make it like pop up for whoever I'm trying to get to pay attention to the thing. So on YouTube, it's the description. I don't know if there's hashtags on YouTube. I don't really use YouTube, but I'm working on the videos thing. Yeah, videos are hard, but videos and the description, the words, that's what makes it go places.
Okay, good input. So I know it's uncomfortable for some of you, but I want you to really start small, start practicing. Okay. By the end of this year, beginning of next year, everything that I'm doing, I'm not going to abandon my KV Core drip campaigns and all of that stuff. I'm not going to abandon that. I never will. It's set up, it's running, it's great. All right. But everything that I'm really focusing on is going to be social media video and YouTube video. That's all it's going to be. Okay.
What about TikTok? Is that still popular with the?
Very popular. I just won't do it. I won't do TikTok. I don't want to say why on video, but I just absolutely will not do it. I won't do it. But if you can do it and you're into it, it is the #1 social media platform. Yep. 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 Is anybody here doing TikTok? Anybody doing TikTok right now? No? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's doing it except for us. So that's where you got to start putting your effort. And I understand that we've talked about it before, and I understand I've tried to push you on it before, but there's data now that says why it's important. Okay. And this generation Z, is going to outpace the millennial generation in home ownership. Okay. They're buyers. They're going to be in the market, right? So if you want to start building that pipeline with them, then you're going to have to shift, because let's be honest, the boomers they're done. Okay. They're done. That great boomer downsize and all of that stuff that's happening, it's over. They're all too old now, right? Generation X, that's us. You know, we've probably still got some moves to make, and we've probably still got to some changes to make, but let's be honest, we're really, really, really resistant to change. All right. So once we get into a place, once we get into a spot, we're going to stay there. Okay. We're not going to change because it's too much work. We're not going to change because we recognize the effort involved isn't worth the yield, right? We're not going to do it. So the millennials, they are who they are. They're out there plugging along. They're our single biggest buying segment right now, but I think that our economy and how things have gone kind of speak to that. We got to go with what's next. We got to get ready to go with what's next. What's next is Gen Z. How old is Gen Z right now, Jess? They're mid-20s, right?
Yeah, mid-20s and down.
Yeah. Yeah. So next couple of years, they're our guys, right? So shift it, change it. I'm going to try and figure out some way for us to, get involved in this together so that we can be more comfortable with it. I will tell you this, though, the only way to get more comfortable with taking video of yourself or talking on video or anything else is just to do it. You just have to do it over and over and over and over again. And pretty soon it is not a big deal, right? It's not a big deal. Brandon and I were sitting in the office the other day. You might have seen this one on social media. We're sitting there talking. I moved my chair. I go, hey, suck in your gut and smile pretty. Here we go. And I just made one. And he was like, well, you should have told me.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Well, you should have told me. No, I shouldn't have told you. You just get to the point where you're making them all the time, and then it's no big deal. It really isn't. But you got to start somewhere. And look, you don't have to talk about, this is the beautiful thing about video. And Brendan's been talking to some consultants that have said the same kind of thing. You can talk about a lot of different things, guys, right? Sure, you can talk about real estate. You can talk about specific housing. You can talk about a listing or something that you really like or that you're trying to promote because it's your listing. You can also talk about restaurants. You can also talk about things to do on the weekends. You can talk about things that are hobbies, like, yeah, here I am at Sugar Bowl doing what I do, 2 times a week all winter long. You can do whatever you want to do, because all you're really trying to do is build this consistency in audience, right? Is to get your stuff, your video out there playing in front of people so that when you are talking about something that's really, really important for your business, it's in front of them. Okay? Start thinking about it, start practicing it. If you have any questions. I'm not a pro, but I mean, I would wager to say I'm better at it than anybody in our brokerage.
Mhm.
If you want to talk about it, I'll help you. But get going, get used to it. Get through the learning curve and the uncomfortable curve now so that by the time we hit January 1 and you're starting a whole new year, it's just part of something that you do. And it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Okay. All right. 49. What do you got? Anything we need to talk about? Any questions? Anything you want to add about any of the stuff that we talked about or anything in general? Any market related questions? Seller specific related? We never talked about sellers. We just didn't get there. Okay. We'll cover that again later. But anything you want to know, let's get it out there so that I don't keep you here all day.
One quick thing that I'm starting to see some traction on is there's a lot of commercial building owners that need to sell their buildings now because they had that low rate and they can't refinance it, and they had like a 3 or 7 year fixed
Uh-huh.
that's coming due. And now they need to do 1031 exchanges, and a lot of them don't want to be in commercial anymore, so they're buying houses.
When you say they're buying houses, are they buying single family units or are they buying multifamily?
It's both.
Both. Okay.
But like I just did 2 loans for one of my SoCal clients that she just sold her commercial building. She had $1 million proceed from the sale, so she had to do a 1031 exchange, and she's in her 60s, so she bought 2 houses that she's going to rent to her kids to pay for the mortgages. And she
Gotcha.
put 50% down on each house, and each one was like a $1.2 million house.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
So that could be a good market to market to is, hey, if you want to get out of your commercial building, you can, do a 1031 exchange and get into a residential or even units.
Gotcha. Don, thanks for that. And that is really convenient timing. Guys, I haven't opened it yet. It's sitting in my desktop. Check your emails. There is an email from NextHome Corporate that's talking about some kind of commercial certification that's available to you if you do some training. So if that's something that Don's seeing coming up on the radar as a need, it would be a really good time to get that commercial sales certification tagged to your license. Timing is everything. Timing is everything. So check your emails. Like I said, I saw it. I saw the subject line. I haven't opened it, but it's in there. It's in there. So I don't know what's involved. I can't speak to that, but I think everybody in this office, even the people that aren't on the screen, have asked me at least once this year, like, hey, do you know how to do commercial? Like, what about commercial? And I do know how to do it. I've done it a little bit, not a lot. And I will tell you this, it's completely different than residential real estate. Completely different. And if you don't know the basics and you can't kind of like talk the talk, everybody knows right away. Like everybody knows. So get some training under your belt. After you take the training, if you take the training, after you take the training, there's probably a good talk track for you and I about what the training was involved. And then why not? It's a great business. It really is. It's very different, but it's great business. Actually, there's some things now that are similar, but yeah, it's something you should look into.
Yeah, the big
Okay.
thing with commercial is knowing what to say no to.
Yes.
Because you can get into like, oh, this is a $350 million building that we can sell. Like, no, you don't want to do that because you're going to spend an entire year trying to do it.
Right.
Waste all your time.
And your marketing money. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of marketing money in commercial real estate sales. I mean, think about if you decide you want to sell somebody a strip mall on the freeway, okay? I mean, the minimum expectation is you're going to spend $3,000 on signage. It's all of those things. Big deal. They don't go on the MLS. Where do they go? What kind of disclosure and documents do you need to have? How is somebody going to submit you an offer? Okay. What's that going to look like? you know? Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Yep.
Yeah, go.
So any ideas on how to bump my Pollock Pines listing that's, we're at 2 weeks now.
Mhm.
Obviously, the newness is worn off and it's
Yep.
died out.
So you,
It's a niche market.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. So you're wondering how to get some more traction, get some more activity on it,
Yeah.
get some interest going.
Yep.
Okay. So I have a couple suggestions for you. The first one you might want to try, and you can do this at some pretty affordable price points, is you might want to try to boost it through KV Core, which will boost it through social media. I think you can do a boost in KV Core for as little as like 25 bucks. I've had mixed results with that. Sometimes it works really, really well. Sometimes it doesn't. But essentially what you're doing is you're giving KV Core 25 bucks and they're running an ad with your listing out to social media and targeting it intentionally to people who have trolled around real estate sales or anything like that. The other thing that I know you know this, Steve, but I'm gonna say it anyways, is if you can get yourself a little tiny price reduction, just so that your listing pops back up on the main dashboard of MetroList.
Yep.
That can sometimes be very effective also. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a big reduction. It can be $1,000 and it still lists on MetroList as a reduction and goes up on the main tile, right? I think that's another good way to do it. You can also look at maybe doing open houses and boosting those open house advertisements. That sometimes helps too. And those are the kinds of things some people, and I don't know about this, but some people absolutely swear by it. And that is whether or not you do the reduction, change the pictures around on the MLS. I don't know that I believe that, but I'll tell you, I've talked to agents that absolutely swear by it and say it works every single time. So take the picture, change the main picture, change the picture sort, make it fresh and new so that when people are scrolling through it, and that house especially could be because it's a really interesting blue color. Like
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh, there's the blue house again. Oh, there's the blue house again, and zip right by it. See if you can get a different main photo and see if you get any traction that way. I know that you've been putting it all over your social media. I think that's good. It might be time to run some kind of video and put that on social media. Take a video of the house. Depending on, let's see, this weekend's going to be bad. But maybe next week that might be a good excuse for me to ride a motorcycle up there to take a video. And is it vacant?
Yep.
It's on lockbox?
Yep.
Aha. All right. Okay.
Looks like
Yeah.
work.
Yep. Yeah. The barbecue joint right there in Placerville. Yeah. Okay. So
And make the day of it go Apple Hill and everything.
yeah.
They just started up too.
Yeah. So try those things, Steve. Anybody else got, Brendan, anything to boost a listing that's not getting as much traction anymore?
Yeah, possibly. I think that everything you touched on is really good, and I know it's hard to get price reduction. Sometimes you got to fight for a really big one too to make any dent in it. But definitely, if you want, start small so it jumps back up there on the MLS. But try doing a search for all the main big time agents in that area and reach out to them. Look and see who's sold a house recently in that area. Maybe they have another buyer for it. Um, and it's work. You got to grind on this type of stuff, right? But find as many agents as you can that are doing business in that area and reach out to them and just see if you can't, put it in front of them. Maybe they missed it somehow. Maybe after you talk to them about it, they'll go, "Hey, you know what? I do have somebody that might be interested in that."
That's a good one. I like that.
I would go a bit further with the agent inquiry, and agents, especially top producers, and it doesn't matter where they are, love to feel like they know better than anybody else. So a real good question for them is, hey, have you happened to seen my listing at such and such and such and such. I'm not getting that much traction on it. What do you think? What's your take on the listing? Right? Get them engaged, get them involved, let them talk. I mean, whether or not you're really going to take anything they say to heart is one thing, but I'll tell you what, if they talk about it for 5 minutes, they're going to remember it.
Yep.
And on that note too, actually, if you ask them, hey, where do you think I need to be to get this moved? Document that, and then that's more ammo you can use with your sellers and tell them, hey, this is what the feedback is. This is what everybody's saying. This is where we really need to be at to sell the property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's frustrating right now, Steve. I know. I know. I know. Sellers are either pissed because it's not selling or they're pissed because it did sell. It is tough right now. Cindy's over here shaking her head because she's a seller. Okay. Anything else, guys? No? Okay. I'm going to click the button. We're going to work on Cindy's counter, and then I'm going to call our boy Hong Bing and make him mad. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go make a seller happy.